Welcome back to 100%ing Sea of Thieves. In today's episode, achievements that are basically impossible to complete if you try to do them as the devs intended. That's right, we are setting our sights for the Pirates of Mischief cluster of commendations, which will have us use all manner of different tools and weapons to be as annoying as humanly possible to other players. There's gonna be a lot of sneaking in today's episode, but something I can't hide from you guys any longer is what I've been working on for the past few months. I know I'm long overdue with this, but I'm so incredibly excited to announce the arrival of my first ever merch drop. The Shrouded Eternity Collection features all original Sea of Thieves inspired artwork that is filled to the brim with references to some of my most popular videos on the channel. And that packaged in a design that doesn't feel too gamery or YouTube merchandisey, if you know what I'm saying. I wanted something I could wear out in public without feeling weird about it, and I think we really nailed it with this drop, even though filming myself in public certainly did feel very weird. That's to say, I'm really happy with how these designs turned out. The clothing quality is great, I wear this stuff all the time myself, and we put a lot of work into making sure that shipping internationally is as cheap as we could make it. If you want to check it out for yourself, simply go to cliffapparel.com or follow the link down in the description below. But be warned, this drop will only last for a month, so get it while you still can. I'm so confident that you will not regret it. Anyway, back to the video. Now, as much as this cluster is all about messing with other players, there are some commendations you can get off of AI enemies. And because AI tends to be more cooperative than players, I decided to get my freebies in first, as a bit of a warm-up, so to speak. And using that skeleton galleon over there, I'd be able to do just that. Starting off nice and easy, I collected bony boulders simply by using my grapple gun to get on that boat. And from here on out, all I needed to do was find myself a cozy spot to collect the units of measurement whilst it was sailing. Though my boat definitely took that personally and started throwing hands like a jealous girlfriend. Also, I'm not kidding, by the way, any of these achievements that have to do with distance do not ever specify what kind of distance I have to cover. So this could be taking an hour or 10 hours or just a few minutes. Yeah, this literally took less than 15 minutes to complete, though the commendation progress only showed up after I got out of my hiding spot. I figured I could use that momentum to knock out even more easy achievements on the list, targeting a skeleton camp for reasons that will become apparent very soon, just to find out that my luck had run out already. Ow! Bro, attack him! He has the lore dart on him! Why are you guys stopping? Okay, can I just do like this? And I don't know I'm here anymore? Why aren't they fighting? And why does this dude still know I'm here? Yeah, just a few commendations deep, I was already losing it. The achievement I was trying to get is called They Work For Me Now, which requires me to get skeleton minions to defeat their own captain by putting a lore dart on them. On paper, lore darts are supposed to distract AI enemies and make them turn on each other, but none of these guys had any interest in following the script, instead simply running me down with reckless abandon. Guys, if I'm already struggling with the easy commendations, how the hell am I going to complete the actually impossible ones? Now, it did work for a brief moment before, but a couple seconds in, they simply began turning on me again. Though eventually I realized that it seemed like their aggro onto me simply supersedes the effect of the low dart. So if I could use a mimic dart to turn into a skeleton minion myself, then break line of sight and go into hiding, once I reveal myself, they already forgot all the crimes I had committed. Now their attention was squarely on each other, though that still didn't mean that they were doing what I expected them to. It wasn't until I used an actual hiding emote out of their sight that their aggro completely reset and they finally began beating each other up. Also, I accidentally got the smile and wave commendation, which explicitly states I have to use the point emote at a player that I'm mimicking, but hey, I'm not gonna look a gifted achievement in the mouth. And in due time, They Work For Me Now, grade 1 was achieved. To actually complete all 5 grades of this commendation, I had to do this 24 more times, and I figured the most efficient way to go about this was by plopping down skeleton hunting voyages, because every such voyage will have me face off against 3 captains. This would also allow me to work towards a few other commendations, including defeating AI enemies using poison darts and luring golden skeletons into the water with the help of lore darts. Now, I make this whole thing look like a side quest, but these achievements actually took me hours to complete. Sometimes I would get unlucky and get a wave of vegan skeletons who would knock each other into the water, healing themselves in the process, which in the context of how much HP a captain has and how little damage their minions actually deal was extremely annoying. But eventually, I got the brilliant idea of doing some science to find out how much of a beating these guys can take before they fold. I learned that they can survive a total of 3 poison darts before they basically become a free kill for any of their own minions. I'm telling you this in case you want to do these commendations yourself, because it took me an embarrassingly long time to get the idea of pre-damaging the captains before sending their squad after them. But in due time, Grade 5, Poisonous Pirate, Rusty Bucket Bay, and They Work For Me Now were all complete. I also picked up Pied Pirate Piper, which had me playing music whilst getting at least 5 enemies to chase down the same lore dart, as well as Who's Who after defeating 10 enemies while mimicking them. But there was one more PvE commendation I had to wrap up before getting to the the real meat and potatoes of today's episode, and that is Grade 5 Oceans of Venom. That one required me to defeat 100 crawlers using poison darts, which would take a bit more finesse than the previous achievements. At first I figured that diving for a sunken treasury would be the best way to go about this, because that's a wave-based combat encounter that I can infinitely repeat until I'm done. The only problem is that a lot of these waves do not actually spawn crawlers that will contribute towards that commendation. Yeah, the sirens absolutely do not count, and neither do the skeletons, which means that most of these waves are a complete waste of time. Next idea I had was trying out some story missions. These types of enemies were introduced with a Pirate's Life update, which means that you will find plenty of them to fight as part of the corresponding tall tales introduced with that update. Spoiler alert for all of you that have not played a Pirate's Life yet. We good? Okay? Okay, so at first, I decided to try Pirate's Life number 1, because I remembered there being a gauntlet of crawlers you had to fight while saving Jack from the ferryman's ship. But this was really inefficient, because there would never be more than a couple of them at a time, and I had to wait ages for new waves to rock up. Pirate's Life number 4, aka Dark Brethren, was a much better choice by comparison, because there was a massive room of constantly spawning crawlers that would try to fight you. Now granted, Jack will steal a bunch of kills from you here, which makes it less efficient than it could be, but it's still far and away the highest enemy density I could find. I could also limit the number of enemies that Jack could steal from me by deliberately positioning myself in a way where he would not have line of sight to me. And in due time, Oceans of Venom Grade 5 was mine. Gamers, it's time for the big brain strategies. The remainder of commendations we have to complete will require us to pull out every stop if we want to become the most mischievous pirate on the 7 seas. And to make things more difficult, I will try my best to get them done as Rare intended. How am I gonna get a small family's worth of pirates to perish at the hands of the weakest trap in the universe? Only time will tell. But to kick things off, we are not doing this the old-fashioned way. I'm sure you guys expect me to sail around scanning the seas for swabbies to hide on their boats whilst they are out there completing voyages. But I am smarter than that, because who in their right mind would expect another pirate to get on the boat the moment they log into the game? That's right, rather than going out looking for somebody to tuck on, I decide to send my ship away to make space for them to come to me. And then I'll get on their boat whilst they are literally still in the loading screen. The plan is flawless. Oh shoot. I can't believe this is working. Nobody will ever expect the day 0 tuck. Really? So he chose not to stick around. That's okay. We have time. And this is how I learned of the one big flaw in my plan. Not everyone who logs in also intends to set sail. But thankfully for me, a brigantine spawned not too much later, giving me another chance to get this bread. And this time, I saw an actual real player. A player who wasn't just aimlessly walking around, but actually getting ready for a voyage. Bro was out here raising an emissary flag, getting supplies, and even dripping out his vessel. This was like a scene straight out of 2022. Bro got no captaincy, really old school cosmetics, and had to get his supplies the old-fashioned way by actually running the barrels on the island, which took a lot of time. Whilst I only waited 30 minutes for this opportunity, it took another 20 minutes of preparation before he and his gang were ready to head out. Their destination, a photo fortune. Honestly, I already saw the inevitable demise of what must have been an open crew. There was no way these guys would be able to take on that world event if even one competent enemy ship rocks up. A fate that I was not destined to witness, because one of these dudes actually decided to climb up the crow's nest and was looking me dead in the eye before literally hitting the bell as a form of ringing the alarm. At first, I wasn't 100% convinced he actually saw me, but when the second gang member pulled up, I knew it was Jover. I cannot believe that the way I was found was not by way of an experienced player fleecing the ship, but a swabby going up the crow's nest just because high ground is cool, I guess. Evidently, I'm not very good at hiding, but I am good at talking, and I really wanted to at least get one commendation out of this before these guys sent me to the ferry. So I convinced them to execute me with an explosive dart to just immediately douse it for the washout achievement. But then I saw an opportunity. I mean, maybe I can help you guys. Maybe I can help you sink these guys. Hold up, let me become part of the crew real quick. There we go. That's like a whole ass fight over there. Okay, I need this dart to run out without me taking any damage. Okay, I'm gonna be down below repairing. And just like that, I turned a really bad situation into a really good situation. Undercover is an achievement requiring me to basically pretend like I'm part of this crew. I need to repair, load cannons, and bucket water whilst under the effect of the mimic dart, and after running its entire duration without taking a hit, undamaged doppelganger was also complete. Not entirely the way the devs intended me to do that, but at least there actually was a risk of me taking damage rather than these guys just letting me chill on their boat at an outpost. In fact, this was actually the perfect situation because all the repairing and bailing I was doing propelled me forward in completing more and more grades of my undercover commendation. There was actually a lot to repair because we were low-key getting fried by that sloop. I was genuinely putting in a lot of effort to keep these guys afloat whilst not dying myself because obviously I'm only pretending to be part of this crew. If I die, they cannot revive me and I'm back to square one. Even the game itself was testing my metal, hitting me with a lightning strike through the hull of the boat. But eventually, undercover grade 5 was achieved and we were in fact the last ship standing. Now the other brigantine had sunk basically just as we arrived, but we saw a few players from that crew having survived. Gang was a bit reluctant when it came to fleecing the island, and I started to feel like there was an expectation that I should sacrifice myself since I'm basically a glorified hostage. So before I got shot, I volunteered to go to the fort, and what had to happen did inevitably happen. I got blown up. But it wasn't all that bad. At least I made decent progress, and to add to my success, I respawned on a server at one of the highest traffic outposts in the entire game. Surely I would have absolutely no trouble hitching a ride at New Golden Sands, but in actuality, I've spent literal hours of my life without anyone even coming near me. The only ship that broke the streak was a sloop that came here to raise an emissary, but these guys were like stone cold professionals. They staggered their entries so that somebody was always on the boat, and they had their sloop too far away from it to cover the distance unnoticed. Never seen anyone drive by an outpost with that level of efficiency, but missing out on that opportunity was really frustrating. Now I did eventually get a new sloop to spawn, and I successfully got to hang off the side of it, ready to take off and collect units of measurement for my keep me hanging on commendation. But bro was literally breaking the fourth wall. I swear he was looking through the game straight into my soul, and after just kind of vegetating for 10 minutes, he left the server and scuttled the boat. I was really hoping the next sloop was planning to actually set sail, getting on there within seconds of it spawning before I realized that I picked a really bad spot because I was right next to the barrels that the last ship left behind. So I went to look for a new hiding spot, but I couldn't really go for the crow's nest again because if bro was coming out of the tavern right now, he would most assuredly see me. Though once I heard what kind of footsteps were coming towards me, I realized that it didn't even matter where I decided to hide. Just a few more minutes, man. What the hell? I was sleeping.
Okay.
Thanks, man.
Good night.
Thank you. I can't believe that worked. You know what? Sometimes it's not about what you say, it's just about saying it convincingly. Now, I was still struck with bad luck because PvP skeleton bro over here actually had no intention of setting sail, but I did ask if he could help me with a commendation. It's just impossible to get the legit way. Found You is tasking me with breaking people's hide emotes 25 times, which is something you could literally go your entire Sea of Thieves career without doing even once if just nobody ever hides on your ship. Or if you never find them, I guess. But after pocketing that commendation, I decided to go for a new approach. Waiting at outposts had proven to be a massive waste of time, so instead I headed right towards a world event to bait unsuspecting players into sinking my boat. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but it actually worked. I waited for the right opportunity, it being all three of them being on the island, before heading straight for their vessel and hiding below deck, where I spotted a keg stack. I do not like my chances here, guys. Be as it may, the hidden in plain sight commendation is one I actually began working towards in the previous episode, and I was determined to finish it today. So with me being a piece of furniture on legs, I began collecting even more units of measurements in hopes of ramping up my cardio session before they complete the fort. But little did I know that neither of these things would come to fruition when their ship met the business scent of a cannonball. Oh no! God damn it! Why did they have kegs on board, man? Yeah, my stay on that ship was very short-lived, but the strategy was kind of sound, so I went for the nearest world event on a new server once again, and even went out of my way to raise a Reaper's mark showing everyone on the map where my boat is. Though I probably should have expected that absolutely nobody would care to complete a basic skeleton fort, so rather than spending even more hours of my life just to be disappointed, I went for a dive to find something a bit more desirable. Where I was greeted by a brigantine that beelined straight towards me. No, this was the most looking to catch these hands brig I have ever seen. It was on site whether I liked it or not, but that did give me an opportunity to get a couple more commendations. Return to sender required me to board their vessel using a grapple gun to then return to my own ship, which I did under a great level of difficulty without getting the commendation. I knew it was only a matter of time until these guys light me up, so I was trying to at least get the press gang grappler comm, requiring me to bring an enemy player from their ship to mine using a grapple gun, which I also did without getting credit for it. Now the dude was on my boat and there was absolutely nothing I could do about it, except utter these magic words. I'm just doing commendation, so I don't got much, sorry.
This is a robbery. Nice ammo crate.
No, not my ammo crate, man! It's the one thing I had! Whilst I couldn't stop them from taking my ammo crate, uttering the magic words "I'm doing commendations" has once again proven to be an absolute cheat code to get out of pretty much any sticky situation. They even allowed me to run it back on my press gang grappler and return to sender comms, which as you guys saw I just got scammed out of. But just to make this encounter a bit more relatable... Nice, now I can make a Reddit post about how toxic the game is, thank you. Hope this helps. The most toxic thing these guys did to me was actually flipping my sloop, which truthfully to this day I do not know how that happened. But once that was over, I could go back to my original plan, which was starting an FOTD of the damned. I don't know why I didn't come up with that idea sooner. If there was ever an event that people want to contest, it's the FOTD, and as a pirate legend, I can start one basically whenever I feel like it. This was important because next to the commendations I still had to finish requiring me to get onto somebody else's ship, I also needed to get people to get on mine, which was increasingly likely at this event because chances are people want to tuck on my boat waiting for me to complete it. All I had to do now was wait. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I got run up on in literal minutes after setting the bait, immediately getting the red alert commendation granted to me because somebody stepped on a trap on with a red flare that I had hidden on my boat. That was the easy part. Now I had to, once again, wait for just the right opportunity to get on their boat. Obviously, they were sinking my sloop, but that's fine. I just pretended to rage quit by scuttling my ship, and to really sell the story, I also ate an enchanted merfruit, which would remove my mermaid for a set period of time. At one point, I was so certain that one of these dudes had seen me when he tried firing himself out of a cannon, but even after that, they just kept clearing the fort. And as soon as I saw all three of them on the island, it was go time. I got on their boat faster than ever before immediately going below deck for my classic hiding spot. Not wasting any time, I began getting my steps in for the hidden in plain sight commendation. And funnily enough, I actually got the Steam achievement for its completion without getting a commendation pop-up in-game. But I had to be careful with my movement because I could hear them getting the loot on board, and I really didn't want to get caught, but I also really wanted to get these commendations done. So once the time was right, I went for the power play and began farming Keep Me Hanging On. The only problem was that I actually had no idea what my progress was because the game doesn't update how many units of distance I had traveled until I unhide myself. An opportunity only given to me when they made a stop by an island to dig up some treasure. I went full on Solid Snake here, changing positions not just to check my commendation progress, but also because they would obviously see me when they come back was I still hanging on that side. Their destination being Reaper's hideout was fairly obvious with them rocking the Reaper's emissary flag, but what I wasn't expecting was the entire crew fleecing the island to check for tuckers. Very ironic, I know. This gave me the perfect opportunity to put down a trap and arm it with a jig ball for the Dance Off Danger commendation. I just needed at least two of them to be in range when somebody steps in, and gamers, that is when things went horrifically wrong. No! Okay, that was so funny. Yeah, it's time to come clean. These guys knew I was on their boat this entire time. So let me rewind to the moment where they found me because I literally cannot believe how this went down.
Okay, Cliff, come out.
How? How did he see me? Why does he know it's me? As you can hear, I was absolutely beside myself. I wasn't even streaming at that moment, so it's not like the dude could have had any outside info on my whereabouts. He later told me that he knew I had not rage quit when I scuttled my boat because the captain's log was still intact. Apparently, that thing becomes unreadable when somebody actually leaves the game, so all he had to do then was check his Xbox socials for most recently played to find my name. I can't even be mad. Bro was taking a gamble on me still being on the boat when he called me out, and me being the idiot that I am, of course I revealed myself. This is just to show how fundamentally impossible it is to get these commendations done the way that Rare intended. You either get somebody with way too many hours in the game finding you based on info you wouldn't even consider, or somebody so new to the game they sink their own boat before you even have a chance to get your comms. So yeah, I got hidden in plain sight grade 5 only after he called me out, and they then went out of their way to put down an ammo voyage to get me the traps necessary for my remaining achievements. Secret Snare Setter is another commendation that's basically impossible without assistance because the trap does not one-shot pirates, and most of us don't run around the game with anything less than full HP. And I mean, how the heck am I supposed to get trap ease assist without collusion when absolutely nobody ever uses traps in this game? And keep me hanging on? Yeah, that was about an hour of me hanging off the boat whilst they were sailing. But at last, we got it! We have become pirates of true mischief, completing the entire section of commendations and getting yet another step closer to 100% representing Sea of Thieves. But if you want to see me hunt for more achievements, check out the last installment, during which I attempted to complete Commendations that literally broke me. You can find the code on screen right now. But until then, thank you everybody so much for watching. Don't forget to check out the new merch down in the description below, and until next time, peace.